Welcome to the Power of Connection. I am Bobby Umar, five-time TEDx speaker, and this is where we make influence human again. One idea, one conversation, one thing you can use. Let's get into it.
It says start. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our live stream today on Substack. My name is Bobby Umar. I run the 1% Brand Brilliance on Substack. I'm also the founder of TLB Club, which is a membership community for small business owners to level up their game. With me are two of my guest expert speakers, John Aspinall and Ganesh Ariyur, who are both actually in my TLB Club community, but they're also in-house experts, and they have some real great knowledge on AI, as well as and Claude and other tools as well. And so we're going to talk about that. I see that Lynn's joined us, Mike's joined us. If you are part of this conversation, by all means, you can comment in the chat here as well. We'll take on any questions you have. We're going to share a little bit of interesting information about AI, Claude, and particularly, talking about how to use it for Substack, only because this is on Substack, although we can use it on other platforms as well. But I'm focused on Substack only because I've actually been refocusing my strategy on Substack since early May. And I know John has also been getting into Substack as well. So that's kind of why we decided to do this. Let's start with introductions. Let's start with John. Please introduce yourself. Let the audience know who you are and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to Ganesh.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Pleasure being here. John Aspinall. I really hang out in the realm of e-commerce. I've been doing it about 20 years, working at agencies and software providers and that kind of thing for brands selling on Amazon and eBay and Walmart and Target. But recently, over the past handful of years, pivoted to still working at agencies as creative director, but then also having my own side hustles, which are now growing into much larger than side hustles, and they're like equal hustles to the day job. Running a LinkedIn ghostwriting agency on top of now. The biggest thing in the room is AI education for brand owners and operators, which I think is really universal for a lot of folks that are just even entry level all the way through experts. And having a ton of fun doing it.
Awesome. And Matt says, "Go, John, go." That's great. Ganesh, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. Again, Bobby, thanks for the opportunity. Great to be with you and John. So I'm a technology executive with a finance education background. I am based in Atlanta. So I have over 20 years of experience leading organizations on a global level, technology transformation, how to adopt technology to solve business problems and increase the revenue or reduce cost. And at very early, I saw a gap between the business and IT, how I can play a role to really make the IT simple for business teams. So I'm also very curious to learn and adapt and also educate on AI. So I'm one of the early adopter of when AI, Gen A, all that came, and the curiosity is really, keeps me going. And every day, always new announcement come up, right? So that's why that keeps my mindset at learn and also share and nothing like experimenting and doing it. So I'm also helping organizations how to adopt AI, how to put a governance, how they can solve real business problems. So again, thanks for the opportunity here, and
Okay.
look forward to a great conversation here.
All right, great. So, and I'm Bobby Umar. I'm a motivational speaker, a 5-time TEDx speaker, Inc. Magazine top 100 leadership speaker. I'm a 2-time LinkedIn top voice. I'm a content creator. I'm a speaker, a coach, and I help people land TEDx talks, help people build their business. And of course, AI is a big part of what I'm doing. In fact, I shared a story today on LinkedIn where I specifically said that, in the last 15, 20 years of being a content creator and a speaker, I created like 5 to 6 kind of PDFs. They're lead magnets, the top 3 ways to get speaking, the top 3 ways to build your personal brand, and whatnot. And, like it was something I would type up 1 page, 2 page. And in a matter of 2 days, I created 22 PDFs. They're all 10 to 20 pages long, and they're all lead magnets that are going to be given to my subscribers, whether you're a free subscriber here on Substack or a paid subscriber to the next level up. I have extra stuff for you. And I also have things for the Tier 3, which is people who are TLB Club. So, the fact that I did that in 2 days with AI was brilliant. I loved it. It's in my brand voice. It took all my information from my PowerPoints, my YouTube videos, everything I've ever done, and used that knowledge and my knowledge database out there to create these things. So that was phenomenal for me. So that's a great segue into this conversation, because here you are on Substack and you're writing stuff, you're putting content out there. How can we use it? But let's start with the first kind of AI question, which is, and I'm going to go to Ganesh first. So the first question is, 12 months ago, and AI could do impressive things that didn't matter much for brand building, but what can it do now that actually moves the needle?
Yeah, that's a great question. 12 months back, AI was pretty much used for content creation. But now it's can do much more. It can be literally your chief of staff, right? It can be your second brain, and because once you are able to uh, set up the right way, so it can be your coach. It can be somebody who can be with you, right, and advise you how to do things, how to prioritize, whatever your personal business goals are. It can be somebody who can guide you to check on you, right? So the AI is become getting more and more powerful. Of course, human element has to be there. Human has to lead. But in the 12 month, I've seen a big shift from just a pure like content creation to more into a second brain.
What about you, John? What do you think about that? What's changed last 12 months?
Yeah, the biggest thing that changes between AI telling you what to do versus AI doing it for you. And I think what Ganesh said about the second brain is huge, because there's so many people that have information that they need to action on, but they don't have the time to do it. And the rise of things like second brains with AI that are powering them, you're just dropping in links, dropping in URLs that you know are valuable, that you're going to use at some point in your business, in your content, but it's doing all that work for you. And it changes from data to actionable data, because no one has the time to sit there and watch an hour-long YouTube video. Even they might really want to and enjoy to do so, but they really just want to capture that content. And there's going to be a rise in the next 6 months, I feel, of AI now powering these second brains, where a lot of people can just focus on executing versus thinking. And I know that sounds weird, but it's not thoughtless stuff that's going out there. You're still curating, you're still manning the ship of the second brain, but it's just getting you there faster.
And let me just say, if you guys have questions or comments, put them in the chats, because these two guys are my fingers. These two guys are really, really amazing at it, and they're way ahead of me. I'm catching up, but I'm also doing some stuff. And I'll share a more beginner perspective. 12 months ago for me, AI was, I basically used, I bought into, I invested in different AI programs, AI software, and plans. So there was like something helping with Twitter, something helping me with recording things, transcripts, helping with newsletters, and they were all using AI because I didn't know how to use AI. And so I invest in those programs and those platforms. But now, 12 months later, I don't need this anymore. I'm doing it by myself. The things that I was doing 12 months ago with those platforms that I paid into, I don't need them anymore, because now I'm doing it by myself with AI. And so for me, that's where it's becoming a game changer for me too. I'm leveling up to where these two guys are, but that to me is also an important piece as well. Let's go to the next question, which is for you, John. Give me one specific way in which you use AI in your business this week.
Yeah, so I would say updating my website. And I think it sounds so basic and so rudimentary, but it came to a point where, yeah, I'm growing on Substack, tripling down over here and going where the energy is. But my website was still capturing stuff natively into my email marketing. So I told Claude, I said, hey, dude, like, I want to get both. Like, how do we strategize to make that work? So what Claude actually did, because my website is connected with Claude Code and all the code that's behind it. So anything I say to do, remember, it's actionable data. It's going to go and do it for me, because I don't want it to spit out like a chat GPT 2 years ago, go and click here and do this. It's just going to do it for me. So it very easily went and changed all the opt-ins to send to Substack. But on a parallel, when someone opts in for Substack, not only are they going to Substack, but on the back end, we're capturing that email as well to go directly into my own direct email marketing funnel. So now I have it both ways. So with Substack, because the biggest pain point I said is like, hey, if we double down on Substack, what happens when I have a one-off message or an offer I just want to send out to folks and not necessarily a publication? And it said, nope, we can't do that. This is where publications and articles and blogs go. And I said, well, what's the solution? And I said, here's the solution. So I said, cool, do it. So now when anyone opts in on my website, instead of just going to one or the other, it's going to both. So I'm covered on both parts. And I wouldn't have normally been able to do that if it wasn't for Claude.
I love that. Ganesh, do you have an example of something you worked on this week? And I already gave an example of what I did this week. What have you worked on this week?
Yeah, I'll tell you something very interesting, right? And again, first of all, thank you, Bobby, with all your guidance from thought leadership and exec, the branding, personal branding, very, very inspired by that. So, uh, though I'm in IT, I'm not a hardcore programmer or a coder, right? So I know how to connect things, how to solve, but I'm not a hardcore programmer. But I wanted to, one thing, what I realized, I have a LinkedIn profile, but I don't have a personal website. So how do I do it? Of course, I can work with the website developer. Then I have to work on their schedule, then cost money. Then I don't have time. I need to quickly up and running. I used Claude as my like a brainstorming. Right, Claude, I have a LinkedIn profile. This is what I want to be seen as. How do I position my thought leadership? It with the interacting, it gave me a website kind of a framework. Then it helped me to go to GitHub, created my repository. It went to Netlify. It connected to my website. Now it's launched. Transformsmarter.ai. It's fully functional. It's live. If I go to Google, it's coming on page 1 already. I just launched it yesterday. So another fact is my Forbes article full-fledged article got published yesterday. And they already ranking that also on page 1, and my website is already linked there. So it just timing is perfect, and thanks to Bobby with all the guidance. So purely developing and enhancing my personal branding.
That's awesome. I shall share another thing that I just did, which was actually today. I was looking into my content distribution strategy and looking at what I could. And I have a Hootsuite paid account, and then I was being guided by Claude to, hey, maybe you should upgrade to Buffer instead of Hootsuite. It was giving me some options, whatever, and I was looking into it. But then I was like, hey, wait a second. I actually have a Go High Level account. Can we use that? And next thing you know, we start exploring it, and then pretty soon we authorized, and then we test it. And it turns out that I can use my existing Go High Level account to post content across all the same channels that Hootsuite and Buffer are giving me. So now I no longer need to pay for those. It's like stop, save your money, don't buy it. We can do this. And I was like, oh, fine, let's test. So we tested it, and it worked. And so some of you who are on this chat right now, maybe you saw me post, hey, we're starting in 1 hour. That was all done through Go High Level Connect to Claude code, and it put it out there that we're doing this thing. So that's something I did this week as well, which is kind of exciting. So let me get to another question, and I want to go back to the Substack thing because John kind of brought it up. John, you are. I've been into Substack now for, I guess, since August of last year, but you're starting to get into it now. Can you tell me a bit why you're getting into it?
So I've been tripling down on LinkedIn for the past 3 or 4 years, grown to about 27,000 followers. The LinkedIn algorithm is doing something right now. It's not great. And as opposed to, instead of sitting here and crying about it and complaining about it, in tandem, I recently came back from an e-commerce event in Nashville where one of the leaders was saying how, you could have all these followers on social media, but you don't own that audience, you rent them. And it really resonated with me that just that, but also AI process and workflows, the whole concept of stop renting, start owning. And it really was like, okay, cool. Like I have 27,000 followers on LinkedIn. If I want to contact them all, I can't. I don't have all their emails. If I put a piece of content up there, maybe a tenth of them potentially might see it, right? So I said to myself, let's go to Substack. Let's go over here where I'm not going to be penalized so much if I put up a lot of pieces of content, right? Because that's where publications live over there. And then you have the notes, and you can almost kind of triple purpose them, and it just fits a lot more. And I started really focus on it in the last 2 weeks. I already have like 7 or 8 paid members. And I barely have enough pieces of content out there, right? But people see the value in the few pieces that I put up there. And the fact is that now I have their emails. When I send something out there, the likelihood of them seeing it is a lot higher than the content on LinkedIn. The only thing that is a little bit of downside is Substack does not have an open API or a connector just yet. So I am feeling a little bit like how LinkedIn doesn't really have those like full true-on connectors to do a lot of all the things I want to do, but I'm okay with it because it's just so community driven. It feels natural. So I had a backlog of content that I was going to be putting up on LinkedIn. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just putting it over on Substack.
Yeah, to that point, yeah. So now that I've built up my entire system of how I, automate and schedule and publish things, I'm able to publish everywhere across social media except on. So I can do it on LinkedIn as well, but I can't do it on Substack. So
Yeah.
that's fine. I don't mind doing the notes and doing everything manually, but I think that there's some good stuff there. And the one thing I'll say is the reason I like Substack is a perfect example is this live stream. So when this live stream is done, and I should warn you guys, when it's done, it's going to shut off, and we're all gone. So I want to have a chance to say goodbye to you guys. So there's no debrief afterwards. But I should have said it before we went live. But what's going to happen is it's going to give me the entire full video. It's going to give me maybe 15 snippets of the talk. And then with the push on one button, I can share all 15 of those snippets to YouTube Shorts, to my channel. It'll share the full thing to YouTube. It'll give me buttons to share right away to other platforms like Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. And that is amazing because before, when I used to restream things, I could download API thing, or I could download snippets for a modest fee, or I could go to Opus Clip, take my live stream, and then get clips for a monthly fee. But no, Substack is giving you this stuff for free. And that, to me, they're always finding ways to champion and support us with resources to support what we're doing. I think that, to me, is amazing. And that's kind of why I've also doubled down and really investing in my Substack users here too. Now, what about you, Ganesh? I know that I'm not sure how much you're doing on Substack. So tell me a bit about that. Where are you at with this?
Yeah, like I'm very active on LinkedIn, but I also know Substack is growing popularity. Frankly, again, due to time constraint, right? So I'm not. But now you both are inspiring me to to be on Substack. So with definitely, I want to my voice to be heard, the visibility to be seen on Substack. So I might probably work on the next 30 days how to then it's not starting, but how to have the consistency, right?
Right.
And I want to be seen as in digital transformation, AI governance. So that's something I need to think of those content pillars. Then not only posts but the notes. So definitely it's in my plan. But I'm sure now you both have inspired me to take it a serious look.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we'll get into more Substack strategy in a moment. I want to get to some of the other questions that I prepared. So one was, what's the biggest thing creators for you, Ganesh? I'll start with you. What's the biggest thing content creators get wrong about AI right now?
I would say thinking that it is going to do everything for them, and so the AI can be only good based upon what your level of context you are giving, what kind of prompt, and the more context you give, you get a better output. Just you can't really outsource everything to AI. AI can definitely be great to as a support, but it has to be a human intelligence has to be there. So what you want to AI to work on, right? You literally have to train the AI brain, right? So, and just thinking I'm going to sign up for the highest plan in Claude is going to do everything for me. You can't do that. So you have to still have to develop the memory, develop the context, develop the your personal MD file or your like a brand kit. All that you have to feed and give that context. Then you get a better. So once I've seen many people, Ganesh, I signed up for the pro version, the max plan, great. But how are you using? They are not even set up the right way, right? So you cannot really blame the tool.
Got it. What about you, John? What do you think is the biggest thing they get wrong?
I would say kind of what Ganesh was saying, where you think it's like this magic silver bullet. AI still, even in June 2026, it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you just go there and you say, hey, make me an email campaign that's 5 emails deep for my audience, it'll give you something, right? It might look good, but is it really truly on par for your ICP? And could it be better if you would have prompted it a little bit better or had a better context behind it or given it examples of what good looks like? I think that's the big wave right now, is that AI is no longer, I'm going to tell you my problem and we're going to work out together how to get to the solution. AI in 2026 right now is, here is the end result. Let's reverse engineer how to get here. So it's very, very much opposite of, hey, here's where I'm starting. Let's figure out where we're going to be. Now, with the way that it's so advanced with frontier models, you're just saying, this is the end result. This is what good looks like. Let's reverse engineer how to get here.
Yeah, and I think the misconception that I would give is something I told my wife. My wife is a communication specialist, so she's a copywriter, editor, and she was worried that ChatGPT is going to take away her job. But what's interesting is that I was realizing that people are using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever they're using to write stuff. It's only as good as what knowledge they have.
Yeah.
And so what happens is someone would send me, something they've written for their, like, so I'll use my TEDx example. So people write, here's my TEDx life story. Here's my TEDx application template. All right. I said, did you use ChatGPT? And like, yeah, but isn't it good? I'm like, no, it's actually crappy. It's not that great. You would need to redo this. And the reason is, and so what I told my wife is like, look, the truth is, first off, understand how AI works and learn how to get better at it as a writer. But also, because you are a professional writer, you can discern the output as being good or bad compared to somebody who doesn't have that expertise. If you're not a really good writer and you get to write it, not only can you not identify any mistakes, but you can't determine how good it is. And you think it's better than what you've done. But if you're at, let's say, if you're at a C minus ability to write, it can create a C plus effort for you, but it's not going to be A material. And you don't know that, but you think it's good because it's better than what you can do. But so that's why I told my wife, like, this is why you still have a job, because you can discern this stuff. And that's a misconception a lot of people have. You got to take the time to really understand that stuff. And really, it's not going to replace certain jobs if you know how to do your job properly. And speaking of how we write, I mean, that's also gets to the question around, and again, if you're listening to this conversation, guys, I see Felipe, Alex, Dana, you're all here. If you have questions, put them in the chat the way Lynn did. We shared a website. This is brought to you by the TLB Club, which is basically my membership community that hosts guest experts and master classes. We have weekly and monthly tech clinics, monthly LinkedIn clinics. We have a weekly Claude co-working session. If you want to become a member, that's what tier 3 of Substack is. There's tier 1, which is free. There's tier 2, which is the lower paid one. Then there's tier 3, which is the TLB Club version. So if you want to join that, take a look at it and see what kind of stuff you're going to get out of it. I think it's really, really good. But going back to the voice thing, so authenticity, right? So how we don't want to make our voice generic when we're putting content out there, right? So how do you keep what's yours? And I'll start with you, John. Like, what have you done to make sure that your voice that's being put out there with AI, how are you making it your own?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to what good looks like, what the context is, and running through multiple iterations. So I think anything, if someone takes when the AI generates it and just goes to market with it, it's a fail, right? Because now you want to take it and say, does this really sound like me? Reading it out loud, taking a look at the punctuation, the formatting. But I think a really good way to use it is asking AI to ask you questions. That's a really big thing a lot of people overlook, is like, it doesn't have to be just one way where you're just asking AI questions and it's answering you, right? You can say to AI, I want you to ask me questions that you need in order to fully understand my tone, my formatting, my style, my cadence, my structure, all that kind of stuff. And then what AI will do is it'll then start to ask you questions one at a time. And then once it's finished, it has a better understanding of who you are, what you do, how you speak. So, for example, on LinkedIn, I always say things like, I call people you silly goose. There's like a thing I always talk about. So now when I write stuff, it'll pepper in silly goose somewhere inside of it, right? Because that's exactly how I would say things, right? Staying away from things like M dashes and obvious stuff like that. I use a lot of like listicles. I'm very visual with formatting when I do a post. I use Unicode icons to keep the structure. I make sure if it's a short bullet and then there's a longer bullet and there's an even longer bullet at the side, that's me. So that when it interviews me and asks me all those questions, I'm then giving it reference points to see. So it's just way better output.
Got it. Okay. How about you, Ganesh?
Yeah. So one thing I've seen and noticed is it can't be generic, right? And AI writes in a particular format or a pattern. It has a choice of English. Ask yourself, is this the type of language I use on a day-to-day, on a conversational, right? Many words are like, it will be very obvious AI is writing that. So you have to interject with your personal voice. So you can even have a file of the language, the words I use, the sentences I use, that you can literally train AI to write like me. And one thing I also seen, the moment you say, I have seen in my experience, in my 20 years of experience, I have done this, this, this. This is what this project I've done. The moment you talk about your experience, it's not AI written. It's a Ganesh writing. It's a Ganesh voice, right? So how do you stand out, right? So you can also train that write in a certain way, the choice of words, the writing pattern, the flow, and there is also ban list, anti-AI ban list. You can even feed into your any of your LLM. Do not use these things. Follow the ban list. So there are many ways you can train it. Ultimately, you have to interject with your human element experience. Then it becomes your voice.
I think the other thing you'll note as you start to put things out there, you'll start to see how much are you editing versus not editing. In the
Yeah.
early days, I was editing quite a bit, and then less and less. Next thing you know, I'm editing hardly any of it because it's pretty much the way I want it. But the other thing I did too, what I did was I tested. I basically gave people, okay, here are two that I used AI to write, and here's two that I wrote by myself. Can you tell the difference? And the votes came in, and it got the votes got better and better. Pretty soon it was like an even split. They could not tell which one was me, which one was not me. Although technically speaking, it is me. It's just being generated by a different feedback system, right? So that to me is something that goes very well. And the other thing I'll say is that when it comes to your content, one of the things that I had to train my AI into doing is look, there's certain things because it analyzes all my stuff, right? There's certain things I say that are just casual conversation, kind of what John was saying. There's certain things I say to people like "get her done" or like, and I was like, no, this is not going to post. Like a post is different than when I'm just talking to somebody. And so I've trained it now. Like when I'm coaching and talking, you can talk like this. When I'm actually posting on content, it's more like this, and just make sure it's clear either way. And creating content certainly is a great piece here. Let's go into the next piece, which is for everyone on Substack now. So now you're on Substack, you're trying to write, and so if you're a Substack writer with no AI workflow, right? What's the Monday morning move? How do they get started? And I think I'm gonna go to John because he is. Uh, I'm sure he's already done a pretty good job with this. So, John, what did you do to get going on putting content out there for with AI on Substack?
Yeah, so I always tell folks, you don't want to automate or make repetitive actions like skills until you've done it once, bit by bit. So I went through Claude Code and I said, "Hey, here's what I want. Here's the goal. I want to create valuable, educational, actionable content at scale. What do we need to do to get there?" So essentially, what it did was walk me through the process, and it was like, "Okay, what are some examples of your content from before? What cadence do you want to put it out at?" But then it reached an interesting point where it's like, wait, some of this is for free, and some of this is supposed to be gated behind a paywall that's more valuable, that you're giving away things like skills or repeatable actions and stuff like that. So now I have a fully baked out flow or skill that's one is Substack free and the other one is Substack paid. And what it does is it goes into my second brain in Obsidian, which is just a knowledge base of data, goes and sees anything we've written before, sees any new topics that were brought into the second brain, and spins up 5 editions and then parses them out in drafts, both for paid and for free. And then from there, it's just going and curating. So I almost like the fact that there's no API or auto publish because it forces me to have to go and look and see and copy and paste. But while I'm copying and pasting, I'm making sure that it makes sense. And yeah, it's pretty solid.
I think for me, what I would do is number one is focus on the plan. What is my plan? Strategically coming up with something that makes sense to me. What's going to work best? What are best practices on Substack? Learning from the best people out there, and then coming up with my own plan of what I think I want to do. That's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is, okay, now I want to be able to create the right content in my brand voice. So I train it to understand my brand voice, how I wish to speak, what I want to do, and then I think to John's point, I just start testing things out, put things out there, see how they are. I think for me, I try to do both. There's the articles, and then there's the notes, and now there's also what I'm calling community group chats. Those are probably my three big levers, and this live stream is my fourth big lever. So the four big levers I'm using are those. I think there's huge opportunity in the notes. I think there's huge opportunity in this live stream because it's going to create this snippets that we can share for as long as we want, which is fantastic. So that's kind of what I've done. Now, if we segue to Ganesh, let's say you are starting out because let's say you haven't done much. So what do you think you would do?
I would say, first of all, definitely there's a plan to start, but I already have a lot of content in LinkedIn, and I know which I've done very well. Either it could be a newsletter in LinkedIn or a post. Also, I can think of how to repurpose them, but not exactly, but maybe I can repurpose as notes as posts, right? So I've seen some of the other creators, they are repurposing their LinkedIn content Substack. Again, I need to see how to do that, but I don't want to literally copy paste, but I maybe add some new perspective. Maybe that article was written last month, maybe 6 months back. So I can always add some extra new insight to that. So that is one of me. So I don't have to recreate the whole thing. I can definitely repurpose. That's one thought, Bobby.
Yeah, actually to that point, I have a LinkedIn newsletter on my company page, and what I do is the main content that's on Substack, I do a smaller portion on LinkedIn, and I say, hey, the rest of it's on Substack because I'm trying to get them over there. The challenge with LinkedIn, newsletters is that we have no idea what the demographics are. We can't download information, so I'm trying to transition all of them to come to Substack. Now, the truth is, as a social media guy my whole life, having built, 500,000 on Twitter and 55,000 LinkedIn and 12,000 on Clubhouse and 43,000 Instagram, I can tell you that the whole philosophy of trying to move people from one to another, it's like less than 10%. It's very difficult to get that. You have to build within the system. So I'm building on Substack here. I built on LinkedIn there. I built on Instagram there. It's very hard to track. But that said, again, whatever you can do to get a trickle over is, I think, very, very helpful. Any other tips or tricks that you guys are doing that you think might be really helpful for building on Substack? John, go ahead.
Yeah, so I forgot to say, so the one thing when I have those skills or commands to repeat an action for Substack.
Let's explain what that is. What is a skill for those who don't know what a skill is?
Yeah, so a skill is essentially custom instructions or actions that you're saving under a shorter word. So if you have instructions in a process that's maybe 500 to 1,000 characters or words, instead of rewriting that every single time, you're just doing / do this, and then that's what a skill is. It's a memory for an action. So for me, that skill for creating published content, either for paid or free, I forgot to say, so not only does it give me the draft that's ready to go for a publication on Substack, it even queues up 5 notes for me to then use to then market the actual publication. So yeah,
Right.
it makes it very seamless, and you're not going to have to just brainlessly copy and paste it, but it just gives you a springboard and a better footing to get going.
I love that. That's great. Ganesh, any other tips that you might want to share with everybody? Go for it.
Yes. Yeah, one thing I have noticed is when I do on LinkedIn, I always try to include an infographic or something, a visual representation. So one thing is where people connect when they see something visually, right? You're trying to convey those concepts or some key takeaway insight as a visually, as an infographic. So I plan to use some kind of similar format in Substack. Like what kind of medium? Again, I need to do some research on that, but that is one of my thoughts. Not only just writing a post, include some infographic or a visual, so it's much more people can save it for future reference.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity for you guys to, I think For those of you just starting out, I mean, look, writing the content is one thing, but then what's the best way to gain some traction here? I find there's some really good opportunity on the notes section. It's a great place for you to, and notes are pretty much kind of like tweets or threads, or in a manner of speaking, kind of an Instagram story where you share a short snippet of something. It could be text based, could be an image, it could be a video, but whatever it is, you share snippets and you share, you can share multiple per day. Because the problem with like most platforms, posting more than once per day on LinkedIn or Instagram doesn't really do well. There's cannibalization of the algorithm. But here in Notes, just like my Twitter I tweet like 100 times per day. So on Notes, you can share 10, 20, 30 notes that you want per day, and it's actually a great way to get content information out there and start conversation with people. So I think there's lots there for you to leverage if you want. And I put in the notes here, like if anybody has any questions on how to use Claude or AI and how to use our Substack, put them in the chat. I'll see them. We can ask these guys what they think. It's always good to kind of share that knowledge. That's why we're here. And on that note, this live stream that I'm doing today with these two amazing guys is going to be every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's my plan. So once a week, I'm going to be sharing knowledge with several other guest experts. If you want to join the show and come be a guest expert, you totally can. I take any topic that's going to be relevant to my audience, which are basically business owners, entrepreneurial folks, people who want to build their brand, build their authority, build their trust. That's really who I'm talking to. So if you want to come and otherwise, the three of us will just speak every week. But if anyone else wants to come by, you're more than welcome to. That's totally great. So put your questions in there and join us anytime you want. Let's talk a bit about 12 months from now. So the future. So 12 months from now, what's the gap between writers who lean in and writers who don't? I'll start with you, Ganesh. Then we'll go to John.
I will say this technology, the change happening on a day-to-day, right? Is a phenomenal, right? You have to keep up with that. And so 12 from so I don't even know how the landscape will look like. So I would say at least pick one and be really good at it, right? Yes, I have subscribed to many of the tools out of curiosity. Am I using everything on a day-to-day basis? No, but now I'm using more of Claude. Last 2 years I was using pretty much everything on ChatGPT, but now the last 4, 5 months, 6 months, it's all about Claude, right? And that's really fascinating. So 12 months from now, I don't have the crystal ball to tell how it look, but I would say whatever you're doing, be good at it, right? So use all the features, give the context, and be consistent. And it will start understanding your second brain. You can really be a good trusted source.
John, what do you think? 12 months from now, like that seems like a long. Like in the world of AI, I feel like in the last 2 months I've grown exponentially. So, what do you think 12 months will be from now?
I don't even know what 12 days from now is going to be like, right? But I tell folks all the time, you make your system and your workflow and your process tool agnostic.
Yeah.
So, when this whole thing first came around, ChatGPT was the standard. Then everyone else kind of came in and different offerings. AI is going to change every single time. Right now, Claude is the frontier, is the big model, especially with Fable 5 just dropping. But if you build your entire workflow around Claude specifically, if Claude disappears tomorrow, or if a better model takes place, you can't plug and play your system. You have to rebuild your system, rebuild your workflow all over again. So that's why it's like super, super paramount for me to keep everything agnostic. So I could take my full system, jump in Claude Code, pivot, drop, go into Codex. I can go into Gemini. I can do anything I need to do because of the structure and foundation of it.
To add to John, is you have to have a clear brand kit, your voice DNA. That has to be tool agnostic, right? So you can literally repurpose everywhere.
And sorry, John, to that point, talk a bit about the agnostic piece. I mean, is that how do you do that? Because I mean, is that what things like VS Code or Obsidian are for? Like, what exactly are you doing to be agnostic?
No. So in terms of like your file structure, your workflows, like you never want to go into it and say, I'm building out this repeatable skill or command, and you're going to open up Opus, or you're going to open up, Sonnet, and then run it through this connector for this, right? I'm not a fan of like all these different connectors and all these different things because connectors break, right? Fundamentally, your process has to stand the test of time, regardless of any connectors. So if a connector breaks over here, if you have it hard coded in your skill or inside of your system, it's never going to be able to be used anywhere else. So for me, that second brain, everything is files and folders. That's all AI second brain systems are. And it's just how you're accessing those files and folders. So VS Code is one way to access folders and files. Obsidian is another way to access files and folders. But fundamentally, it's just a bunch of files and folders aggregated together, and how you set those up, and that foundation is going to align with where you can actually move and pivot down the road.
Also, Bobby, you should have that MD files, right? So always keep as a backup. Yeah.
Yes. MD files, for those who don't know, are what, Ganesh?
It's markdown.
Yeah, and what's the point of them? Why is it so special?
Because it's literally it's a brain, right? How you write, and you can have one for the brand, you can have your voice DNA, you can have you can have multiple things, and that which can be repurposed, so that in the worst case scenario, as tool disappears, that those things you can be repurposed for any other tool.
Yeah, so think of like a MD file as like you have 5 MD files, like you have 5 .doc files.
Yeah.
MD is just a file type. It's .md for Markdown, just like .doc is like a Word doc. But the compelling reason why is because Markdown is the smallest form of a file,
right,
that's stripped away of any formatting, stripped away of any colors or icon, anything like that. That's what AI prefers, because it's the most stripped down, lightweight, easy way. So if you had 10,000 Markdown files in your system, it's extremely lightweight to move and pivot, versus if you had 10,000 PDFs, which would be astronomically big.
And you will burn all those credit tokens, the PDFs.
Right.
And the MDs are more token friendly. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, when I think about 12 months from now, I like to share the analogy of, the way AI is now. So, I always say that I'm on AI riding a bicycle. And what I mean by that is I'm taking the sights and I'm moving forward, and I'm chugging along. Now, recently, I probably added a little bit of a motor to my bicycle because I'm starting to move a little bit faster in the last 2-3 months. Mostly thanks to these two guys right here, who are part of TLB Club and are my friends and colleagues, and it's great. But people like John is basically driving a car very, very fast, and I think Ganesh is running a train. And now there's other people who are walking. There's other people who are just sitting still. So I've been walking and getting on a bike for the past 2 years. If you are still sitting and you don't even start walking, within 12 months, if I'm walking for 12 months, I'm going to be hundreds of miles ahead of you. The guys in the cars and the trains are going to be thousands miles ahead of you. So I think it's important for you to really understand that, look, AI is here to stay. Just like when the internet came, and just like when social media came, I told people it's here to stay. You have to learn how to integrate it in the best optimal way for yourself, but do not just sit on the sidelines. You need to get up and start moving. And if you are interested in doing that, TLB Club, we host a weekly Claude AI co-working session every Monday. You can come by as my guest. So those who are listening in, you want to come by, just send me a quick ping and on Substack, and we'll get you in there. And if you want to join regularly, then just become a member. That's just tier 3 of Substack is what I would say. So that would be my big advice for the 12-month piece.
Before we get to the Q&A, one quick thing. If today's conversation sparked something in you or for you, imagine what it does in a room. For 25 years, I've delivered keynotes on leadership, storytelling, and human connection across 4 continents. And the number one way this show helps you is simple. If you plan events, or you know the person at your company who does, I would love to bring this to your stage. Everything is at rayallen.com/podcast. That is also where you will find my TLB Club community if you are building your leadership brand with a small business. And so, one page, rayallen.com/podcast. Okay, let's get to the questions.
All right. So with that, if anybody has any questions, we totally can. I love that you said be good at, which is great. Anything else you guys want to kind of get into when it comes to content creation, Substack strategy, using Claude, using AI? I'm open to taking the conversation for the next like 10 minutes somewhere else.
So I would say it's worth the investment
Yeah.
for people that are just getting into it, or even if you just got started, is into building that second brain.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Obsidian. Obsidian just is like the top choice because it utilizes markdown files really well, because it's free, and because it integrates with Claude Code so well. Because once you build out the process of a second brain, like I have mine, where I have a Chrome extension for Obsidian Web Clipper. If I'm on a web page, I like it, I just click the button, it goes into my inbox in Obsidian, which is just a folder, remember folders and files. And then I have an automation that runs at 11 o'clock at night every single day, process my inbox. So Claude goes into my Obsidian inbox, reviews everything, and files it all away for me. So I, throughout the day, might have seen a couple of YouTube videos I could watch a little bit, but couldn't watch the whole thing, read a couple of articles, saw some cool, Reddits or anything like that I wanted to have in my knowledge base for my content, for my reference, but I don't have the time because I'm doing a million things to read it all and do that. I don't need to worry about that, right? And I made it so seamless where it's like in the inbox, and that was part of the process. It was like that, it doesn't come out of the box like that. So it was like, what do you want to do? I want to get all this information as quickly as possible. Well, how are you going to do it? Okay, I'm going to put it in the inbox. What is it? Where does it go from there? Okay, well, here's what we can do. We can run an automation. What time of the day? Okay, cool. Where's the automation going to put everything? Okay, let's find that out. So now that we've deconstructed it, turned it into a skill, and then automated that skill. So now a skill is someone doing something for you when you ask them to do it. An automated skill is someone doing something for you without you having to tell them to do it.
Let me give you an example of a skill that I use. And again, I learned this from John. And also, I put in the chat here that John is actually hosting a masterclass for TLB Club next week on Thursday, 4 p.m. on how to use Claude Code. And the registration is there in the chat. You can also come as one of our guests. If you just ping us, we'll get you access to it if you want to come by. That's going to be a great session. And one of the things that John taught me was about creating a skill. So one skill I have, my opening skill is what I call the morning brief. And what it does is it goes to my Gmail, it goes to my Google Calendar, it looks at the session notes we had from previously, the history that we have, things that I prioritized or I didn't do, or I did or didn't do, things like that. And then it looks at the file that lays out everything that's happening in my business from the different aspects, because my business is really broken into 3 areas: the keynote speaking, which is LinkedIn focused; the business development TLB Club, which is Substack; and then there's the TEDx Mastery Program, which is going through Facebook, Instagram ads. And it knows what's going on. And what it does then, based on that, plus my personal stuff that I'm doing, like, I'm auditioning for musicals right now to get into a show. And so it'll say, hey, Bobby, here's what's going on. You have an audition for, it'll give me my top 3 things. And then I'll say, what do you want to work on? And it does that. And it's really good because, I can clarify and teach it. Well, this thing I don't really have to prepare for. It made me prepare for this Substack, which is why I said you guys had email before, because I was like, I wasn't going to do that. But I said it anyways because it told me to. And then it's like, oh, Bobby, you have an audition on Sunday. Have you prepared the song yet? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm not doing that today, but I'll do that later. Don't worry about it. So that's a great little skill that gets me fired up and get me organized for the day, especially because I'm ADHD. And it's like, I need to really, really focus. I think that's great.
I also want to offer one tip, in my personal experience. So I've been a power user of ChatGPT for the last 2 years. So when I started Claude, I imported all the memory from the ChatGPT. I extracted so I'm not starting I want to get all the key insights. So I'm getting a much better output in Claude. So because it takes time to form the memory, how I write, how I talk, how I visualize things on my create infographic or whatever the content. So that has really helped me immensely. So there's a process to do it. Again, if you join TLB Tech Clinic, we can help you set up how to do that.
Yeah, and actually on that note, Ganesh hosts the monthly TLB Tech Clinic, which is the 4th Wednesday of each month. So it's going to be coming up soon. But let's talk about, John, the thing you're going to be covering next week, Claude Code. Can you tell people what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, really everything. Bobby's going to kind of reel me in a little bit because I kind of get a little too advanced. But I think the biggest difference is, Claude is Claude, and there's 3 different ways to access Claude, and there's multiple different ways you could access those different ways to access Claude. So I think fundamentals are there. Who's best to use what? When does chat come into play? When does co-work come into play? But fundamentally, Claude Code, why that's paramount and industry leading, but it doesn't have to. The name alone scares people away. It's like, I'm not a developer. I don't know how to do software. They really should think about changing the name, because in actuality, most people don't realize co-work is really just Claude Code with a easy wrapper around it. So a lot of people are very inclined to go to co-work, but there's so many limitations on it because of that easy wrapper. And once you start to realize that it's really Claude Code just in a nice little package, but you can also access Claude Code in ways that feel more comfortable to you. Like Bobby, when we spoke, you were accessing it in the Claude app, but then we expose you to VS Code, which is just another way to access the same exact tool, but it makes it a little bit more comfortable because you can see the files and talk to the tool and have it do things. So right person, right fit with the right tool.
And to John's point, adding the VS Code was the engine that was added to my bicycle, and I can tell you that I was definitely doing Claude, then Claude projects, then I went to Claude co-work back to Claude projects and mix, and then once I started doing code, and especially combined with the VS Code, they really made a big impact on me, and I'm at the point now like I can't even tell you what I've done in the last 2 weeks for my business and my brand. It's ridiculously good. So I'm very excited about that. You will learn a ton in this thing, and I hope you guys will check that out. Anything else you guys want to talk about when it comes to Claude AI or Substack? Anyway, we asked a lot of questions, so
there's a lot of stuff. But
there is a lot of stuff. I mean, look, most people here are beginners, so like I think that the one piece of advice I'll give to folks is like if you don't want to get overwhelmed, pick one thing that you want to do first. Right.
Mhm.
I was watching a video from somebody who was talking about that. He said, like, what's that thing that you do that's just like, ugh, that, just annoys you and it's just kind of more of a kind of a administrative thing that you do. That is precisely the one thing maybe you can get AI to do for you.
Yeah.
So even if it's Substack, what's that? Ugh. Yeah, I got to write an article. Well, okay, that's a lot of work, but like maybe there's something you got to do. If you think about that, focus on that one thing. So one of the things we did for our TLB Club members and our co-workers last week is like, look, there are 10 things we can get them to do. I said, let's focus on one thing. The one thing I do is let's come up with your own chief of staff that knows you, knows your business, knows how you work, and that's going to be a really good thing for you. And then next week we'll add another thing that they're going to do. But I think starting with one thing goes a long way because it is hard. Not everybody can keep up with everyone. I still think that before you can fly like these guys are, and before you can run like I might be, you have to learn to stand up and walk. And I think that to me is an important piece.
I will just add to that. There's a really smart lady in the e-commerce space, Ritu Java. She said something, and I'm not going to drop e-commerce stuff on you guys because it's not relevant, but she said something really interesting because she's really smart with AI. She said that her team has a rule of 3, where if they're doing anything repetitively at least 3 times throughout the day, that immediately gets turned into an automation and a skill. So I think it's a really good way to look at it, where if you're doing something and it's like, okay, I did this, and I find myself doing it again. If you find yourself doing it for the 3rd time, that's like that line in the sand where it's like, this is valuable enough for me to spend my time to then make this a skill and make this an automation because I've already done it 3 times.
So I also say, right, have fun with AI, right? Don't get stressed out, right? So AI can be really fun, right? Sometimes you learn by doing mistakes, by breaking things, and that's why there's a community is there. So ask your friends, ask your trusted community members who can lend their voice. They can share their experience. I'll give one personal experience. 2 weeks back, I bought a new Lenovo laptop, and it gave me some error code. Yes, I didn't. When I called the help desk, Lenovo goes to some offshore. You put up on the line for no, you don't have time to wait for 1 hour on the call. So I took a picture of that, went to Claude, hey, troubleshoot me. It told Ganesh, you do this 3 things, step 1, 2, 3. So literally that can be your technician. So have really fun with it, right? And see how you can adapt some real life problems.
I like that idea, having fun with it, right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that the one of the reason I like code so much is I just say, "Hey, is there a way for us to do this?" That's all I do, and it brainstorms things, and "Oh, okay, that's not that. What about this?" And yeah, like I'm having so much fun just kind of playing around, asking these random questions.
Also, like Bobby, last week I asked Claude. Now the last 6 months I've been working with you based upon what you know about me, Ganesh. The last 6 months, what type of skills I need to develop in my these are I'm asking repeatedly again and again. I'm writing in a certain way, right? So Ganesh, this is what I recommend. Have this A, B, C skill. Do you want me to go and create it? Once I approve S, it goes and automatically creates it the moment I approve it.
Hey, you know what? I just thought of another question I want to ask John because you mentioned the API on Substack, and I learned today that the API on Substack is not available. Do you think that's going to be happening anytime soon? That we will be able to leverage it?
I don't know. I hear some rumors out there that potentially. I almost hope they don't, because the way that I'm doing things is helping me manually do things as opposed to just spraying and praying.
Yeah.
But I'm always checking and seeing. But who knows? I mean, like I said, AI, this kind of stuff changes every single day. And I want to let you end everything, but I have a hard stop and it's a Friday, so I gotta
No
hop.
worries. All right. Thank you so much, John. Good to
Thanks,
see
guys.
you. And Ganesh, I know we're going to end off soon, but thanks everybody for being here. If you want to learn more about the TLB Club, which basically is my membership community, we're helping people grow their business, grow their brand, grow their AI, grow their tech, grow their systems. And to Ganesh and John's point, if you're willing to invest in the systems, it's amazing how much time you save. The perfect example I'll give you is one of my members was, emailing and texting people to book calls. I was like, "What have you thought about just doing like Calendly or some sort of counter booking system like that?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that." I was like, "Well, look, here's the thing. If you can put aside 2 hours, I'll show you how to do it. You will then save dozens of hours per month with booking people." And that's what I did. And now he's, dozens of hours per week leads to how many, or per month leads to how many hours per year. So it's the same thing. So if you're willing to put some investment into how AI can help you and save time, I help people kind of, make more money, monetize better with sales. And, we try to grow 20, 50% per year. That's what I try to help people with. But I'm also helping you save time. And I think that to me is an important piece. And so if you're willing to invest that time, I encourage you to come by, be guided by me and Ganesh and John, other experts in our community, and we can show you how to really elevate to the next
Can
level.
I make a quick comment?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Like Claude co-work, right? That's something totally different. I would say different tool, and it really helped me organize my laptop. Right, we have a
Yes, me too.
bunch of screenshots. I don't have time to go through each one of them screenshots or all the download file. So I said, do not delete anything. Help me reorganize into logical folders. It gave me suggestion. Once I approved it, boom, it's done.
Yeah, actually, one of the earliest things I did in co-work was, my laptop was also my laptop is actually generally quite organized. The part that's not organized is I've saved a ton, like thousands of things in my downloads folder over the years. So I got to sort through that and reorganize my entire thing. And what I did was I reorganized my laptop, my OneDrive, and my Google Drive all to have the same kind of folder system, and it moved things around. Anything I couldn't figure it out, I had to look through it. But like, it's amazing what it did. So there's lots of opportunities here to build, to organize your life, to create a system, to create skills, to create tools, to have a really good brand voice, to build your content strategy, to strategize on what's going to work for you on Substack and beyond, and to build your business or brand. So that's really what it's all about, guys. Thank you so much for being here for my Friday weekly 4 p.m. Eastern live stream. Thanks, Ganesh and John, for being here. And if you have any questions, reach out to us anytime. You can subscribe to me and for my free level, my paid level, which is it's only $7 a month, or like I think you can get it for like 65 or $70 a year. So take advantage. You get more stuff from me. Or if you want to really level up and be coached by me on a regular basis and access all our stuff, then join the TLB Club, which is also it's tier 3 of my Substack. So with that, Ganesh, thanks so much. Everybody, have yourself a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
That's it for this episode. If it gave you one useful idea, share it with someone who needs it, and follow the show so the next one finds you. I'll see you next time on The Power of Connection.